Hello, my loves. Welcome to another episode of the With Love from Liv show. My name is Liv, and I love that you're here. Thank you so much for joining me. I have my sweet puppy who's making an appearance. So if you're watching this on YouTube, then say hi. His name is Bo, and he's an angel. But if you are just tuning in on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen from, you are super missing out because my puppy is so cute. But today I want to settle a debate. Okay. And speaking of settling, it is the debate that I am seeing from all sides online right now. And specifically seeing it both from the right and the left. And I don't mean to make this political, like I'm not getting into that here. But I think that there are two very distinct conversations and opinions on this. And they are specifically trying to answer the question, should successful women settle? And so there's one school of thought that says, no, you're a queen, you are amazing, you have done all these incredible things. Like, of course, you should never settle for anything or anyone ever. Okay, so that's kind of one side here. The other side is, yes, women have become super entitled and narcissistic and blah blah blah, that these are their words. And so yes, if you're not getting married, it's because your expectations are unrealistic. And so if you want to meet someone, then yes, you do need to settle. Okay, so these are basically the two sides of the conversation that are happening. And I have been actively observing and even fighting on both sides. If you have been following me, I have written posts and content around maybe women are entitled. I have written content around no, like this is a time where women get to have it all. And I actually was recently sitting in a seminar, and it was from a marriage and family therapist who was specifically talking about dialectics. And if you don't know, dialectics is basically the process of finding the truth through two opposing ideas. And I think that this is a lost art in our society. I think that in context of a lot of things, it's yes or no. It's black or white. It's absolute or nothing, right? And so we've created this very dualistic society. And I think that has led to a lot of issues, specifically where the truth is. And living in a time of truth being subjective, my truth, your truth, everyone's truth, then where do we really find the middle? Where do we really find absolute truth? And I think that if you are honestly and earnestly looking for what makes the most sense and how to guide yourself forward, if you are a single woman and you are asking yourself this same question, if you're sitting there being like, well, am I asking for too much, or are men just dropping the ball? Like, what's going on? Based on not just what I observe in the conversation, but also what I observe working with singles. I work with men and women, and going on this journey myself, is that the truth is in the middle. And you have to look at what both sides, both opposing sides, are saying at their core to find the truth in the middle. And so I explored this. I did a whole article on this, which you can find on my website if you're interested. And hopefully, honestly, I hope this podcast is better than the article. I think I can say some things better here than even what I wrote. That was about a week ago I published that. But I'm always trying to learn. I'm always trying to be better. And this seminar that I went to was really eye-opening to me in a lot of ways. So I'm excited to come bring that concept into you and to help you navigate this question, because I think it's a big one. And I think that this question, honestly, will ultimately be the difference between whether you stay single forever, or on the other side, you get married and it's terrible. You made the wrong choice. You did settle and all of the consequences of that. Or the middle, where you do get to get married and it gets to be the most wonderful experience of your life, and it's not going to be perfect. And yeah, there are going to be some things that are maybe not what you expected them to be, but that doesn't make it any less amazing. So let's get into it. Do successful women need to settle? I think in honoring the first side, I guess, of this debate, I will be the first to say every time that life isn't about settling. Life is about getting everything you've ever wanted, right? And I believe that every human is capable of getting everything that they want. I don't believe that you have to choose either or. I'm a yes and person, right? And I say this as someone who is a relatively successful person. I run a decently successful business. Now I'm getting into matchmaking, which, by the way, is literally way more fun than even I built up in my head. And it's amazing. And I love that I get to run this business. I get to run it intuitively. I get to run it on my own schedule. I get to run it. It's not running me. It is not the main focus of my life, but it is a significant focus of my life. And it is a source of financial independence for me. It's a source of freedom. It's a source of fulfillment. And I would not sacrifice it. I would not give it up to get married. I just wouldn't. And luckily, I didn't have to. Luckily, I wanted to step into this embrace of, yes, I can be a successful woman with a successful business, and I can make a boatload of money, and also I can have the amazing guy who is a masculine, leader in my home, and who I still get to feel taken care of by, even though, like, I have been the breadwinner of my house, And I think that there are some women who will see that dynamic in and of itself and say, oh, that's settling. And that's a little bit of the hard part of this conversation, is that the idea of settling is generally something that we're not even creating, we're not even defining, we're letting other people define it. We're letting society, we're letting social media, we're letting, movies or whatever tell us what settling is. We're letting a lot of external pressure from our friends, from our peers, from whoever, tell us that what we want is settling. But, I mean, baby, it's your life. If you want it, then by nature of the fact that it's what you want the most, it is not settling, okay? So if you want it, you get to have it. And it doesn't have to make sense to your parents. It doesn't have to make sense to your friends. It doesn't have to make sense to, you know, your followers online. Like it just doesn't have to make sense to everyone. It isn't something that you have to justify. Okay? If it's something that you want, it's okay that you want it. It's okay that you want to be successful and you want to have a man who is also successful. Okay? So on that front, then, nobody gets to decide what's settling except for you. And I think it's important to talk about the other side here. So inside the article that I wrote, I referenced multiple research studies on what women are looking for. And I think that, in the same way that people go, oh, well, I want, what is that song? That freaking annoying, amazing song. I hate it and I love it at the same time. It was just popular on TikTok, and it was the looking for a man in finance, right? You know the one, 6'5", blue eyes. I don't know why I'm putting an accent on this. I think she was white. But it's like looking for a man, 6'5", blue eyes, with a trust fund, and works in finance, right? And so there's like kind of this ideal that I think is floating around out there. There's like, oh, if everything was perfect and we lived in a world where I could control everything and everyone, then sure, like I would have all of these things. But the hard part is that you are not here to control everybody else. And you're especially not here to control your spouse. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of nice to haves being stacked and stacked and stacked and stacked and creating this perfect person. And by nature of humanity, nobody is perfect. Sorry, you're not going to marry a perfect person. And if you don't marry a perfect person, guess what? That doesn't mean that you're settling. Okay, that means that you're also an imperfect person. And maybe it's okay to let some things go, right? So specifically, probably the top 2 qualifiers that I'm seeing right now among women and what they're looking for is a man who makes more than them and has a degree. Okay? So, and I understand the sentiment here. I understand that a lot of women equate money with safety. I think that's where a lot of this comes from. I also think a lot of women look at themselves and say, well, if I got a degree, if I'm making good money, then it's fair to expect that he has a degree and he makes good money. And honestly, yes, that is fair. However, can you step outside of your experience to get what you want if it looks different? Right? Does that make sense? So, for me, I wanted to be very wealthy when I was single. I wanted to be very wealthy, and I wanted to marry a very wealthy man. And I wanted to have a very, very bougie and extra lifestyle. Okay, I've always been that person. And I moved to DC, where DC is like where you're finding some of the most ambitious people in the world, right? And I'm meeting these guys with amazing jobs, and they have degrees, and they're literally not compatible with me, like, at all. Because number one, I don't want to be tied to the hill. Okay. And everyone here works on the hill. Or they do work in finance. They work at one of the big four, and they are chained to their desk. They're chained to their job. They get, 2 weeks paid vacation a year. And I was dating those types of guys, and it honestly was not enough attention for me. I need way more attention than that. And so when I met my husband, he was also working in finance. So I'm like, yeah, okay. However, that wasn't why I was drawn to him. I was actually drawn to him because he was like, no, I want to get out of finance. I actually hate working for, I think he was working for Merrill Lynch at the time. He's like, I don't enjoy it. I don't like the desk life. I don't want a 9 to 5. Like, it's just not for me. I am not that disposition. I want to create wealth, not a salary. I want to create freedom, and I am primarily driven by the idea of owning my own time and not being told what to do, not having a boss. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is the guy, because it wasn't about money at that point. It was about how we wanted to live our lifestyle. And yes, we both wanted to create wealth, but what was more important than the money was the freedom to travel, the freedom to live however we wanted, wherever we wanted, not to be tied to DC if we wanted to leave, which by the way, we did. And so there were so many other things that were aligned outside of him having this specific job and him having a degree. And his degree isn't even in finance. His degree is in like recreation management. So completely unrelated. And the thing is that I was looking at things a little bit differently at that time. So, it was the same concept for me as I like to be active. I like to go to the gym, kind of a gym rat. At least I was at the time. I am definitely not now. But I like to move my body. I don't look at my dog just eating my microphone. Stop that. But I like to go out and experience the world. Like, that is really important to me. I did not want like couch potato husband, right? I did not want video game husband, because I like to be out doing things. I like to be social. I like to be going to events. I like to be jet setting. I like all of that. And so someone who plays video games all the time, that's fine, like no judgment, but that wasn't compatible with the lifestyle that I wanted. And so I think that's the biggest difference here is, can you detach from these specific qualifications and instead look at what are his qualities? Okay, from qualifications to qualities, and say, how does he build his day-to-day? Does he take time to be active? Oh yeah, this is where I was going. So I'm like, yeah, I want someone really active. And so to me, because I was going to the gym, that meant he needed to go to the gym, right? Because I'm saying that this is my experience and this is what I do. And so my standard is me. It's what I'm doing. And if he's not doing what I'm doing, then that must mean that he doesn't value this the same way that I do, right? And that was a mistake on my part. And I see a lot of people falling into that trap, that if your experience is different than my experience, then your experience must be wrong, right? That is just kind of the time that we're in. So when I met my husband, he was like, no, I don't. I hate the gym. but there's no amount of money that you could pay me to be like a gym person. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. I don't know if I can date this guy because he doesn't like going to the gym. So he doesn't take care of his body the way that I do. So he must not value like physical activity, right? And then I'm getting to know him more. Luckily, I did not like make that a deal breaker and call things off, because I'm getting to know him more. And he tells me this story about how just like a year or 2 years before I met him, something like that, he rode his bike literally from California to Florida. Yeah. Rode his bike. I go to the gym every single day. I could not do that. That would literally kill me, right? He has also like rafted down the Yukon River, and he is a mountain man, and and so it's like he still had that same value system as me. He still had that same desire to be active, but it just looked different. Like his execution looked different than my execution. And so I had to stop saying that unless he does this exact thing, he doesn't value this the same as me. And because I let that go, I got the man who was everything that I wanted, even though it didn't look exactly the way that I thought it would look. Does that make sense? And I think that's kind of the trap that a lot of women are falling into, is kind of this predetermined, if he doesn't have a degree, if he doesn't make better money than you, then he is not a masculine guy. He will not take care of you. He will not be a worthwhile husband. He will not show up for your kids. And so you should just write him off, because otherwise you're settling. And I think we have to start like calling that insane, because it is. And we have to start looking at getting to know people and understanding who someone is, independent of what they have accomplished. If we're too attached to the accomplishments, right? Because like in a lot of ways, when we go travel, then there are times that I am like, we're walking around for miles, right? And I'm like, if I have to take one more step, I am going to just give up the ghost. I'm going to lay down in this road, and that's it for me. I would rather die than take one more step. And he's like, oh, okay, well, if you're done, then we can be done, right? And he can still keep going. And so if I had held on to this incorrect belief that the only way that we would be on the same plane with valuing taking care of ourselves, as if he went to the gym because that's how I took care of myself, then yeah, like I would have missed out on this guy who is in better shape than me, but hates the gym, right? And I think that if you can start looking at, what am I looking for? And why am I looking for those things specifically? Why do I have these qualifications that I have? Is it because I actually think that if he has a degree and he is making multiple six figures, that is automatically going to make him the best husband and dad? Because if that's what you think, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. Okay? Making money and going to school does not guarantee that someone is a good life partner. And yeah, it can make them more attractive than some idiot who just sits in their parents' basement. But, and to be sure, there is a growing number of men who are walking away, not just from school, but from the workforce, and moving into their parents' basements. and abandoning their families and abandoning their responsibilities and just abdicating their ability to be a productive member of society. And I think that's not okay. And I would strongly advise against getting involved with someone who does not have something going on, who does not have something that they're working towards. Okay. But I think that it needs to be said that there are certain qualifiers that we're holding so tightly onto, and by we I mean you, you're holding onto so tightly because there's something in you that just thinks that that's going to give you the best chance, and I think there's some merit there. But the fact of the matter is that there are a lot of men leaving entire industries, and women are stepping in, and I think that's awesome. I think that it's great that women are making so much money. However, if you are making so much money and there are no more men in that specific industry making the same amount of money, then is it maybe time to start looking at something beyond these initial qualifiers? Okay, so for example, a lot of people are leaving the workforce to start businesses. That is also true. And statistically speaking, entrepreneurs who make it, there's a lot of entrepreneurs who don't, that is fair. But entrepreneurs who make it tend to be significantly wealthier than people who are at a 9-to-5 job. A lot of entrepreneurs that I know that are wives are making 3 times as much as their husbands who are working 9-to-5 jobs. Okay? So statistically, if you want someone who is obscenely wealthy, like if that's something that's important to you, number one, I mean, that's okay, but I think you probably need to look at why you're feeling like money is the only way that you can be taken care of, because especially if you have your own money, then there's like a lot of other ways that men can take care of you, okay? But if that's something that you're just like set on, that he needs to make more money than you, then, and you're someone who, went into being a doctor and you're making 6 figures or multiple 6 figures, and you maybe don't want a man who's a doctor. I coach a lawyer and she's like, I don't think I want to date a lawyer, right? But you want someone who makes more than you. Well, chances are someone who's going to make more than you as a doctor is going to be an entrepreneur, right? Because entrepreneurs are usually the ones who are making, between $500,000 to multiple millions a year in their business, which is way more than most 9-to-5s will ever pay. So I think that there's a lot more here we can look at and analyze, but I want to just leave it on that note and have you asking yourself, why do you want the things that you want? Like, it's okay for you to want what you want, but if you're wanting this very strict checklist and you're not ever finding it, and everybody is telling you just keep holding on because he's out there, but you've actually created a perfect person who doesn't exist, then it's okay, and it is not settling to say, I can still have everything that I want, but maybe it just looks a little different than what I think it's going to look like, right? So take your list if you have it, throw it away, burn it, set it on fire. I never want to hear it ever again. And actually ask yourself, how do I know if someone is a good partner? Because if someone's going to be a good partner to you, it actually has very little to do with their education and their income. And in fact, very much to do with, do they listen to you? Do they see you? Do they show up and build with you? And by the way, couples who choose to build wealth together. So, and oftentimes this looks like people who individually are making less money, or who their incomes are disproportionate. And typically it comes when the woman's income is higher than the man's. But when these couples come together and say, hey, we're building something together. We want to build wealth together. And instead of having these really harsh parameters around how much she has to make and how much he has to make, and saying, how can we accomplish this goal together? These couples are happier. Their marriages last. They're better parents. And they end up making more money than couples who come together making, each making $500,000 and coming together and just keep independently doing their own thing and then getting married. Like, a lot of times that situation itself ends up falling apart because there isn't anything beyond the money together, right? There isn't anything beyond the front-facing accomplishments. There isn't the intimacy. There isn't and I'm not talking about sex. I am talking about the vulnerability of being honest with each other. There isn't the hard conversations. The couples who are making, varying, disproportionate amounts of income together, but they're having hard conversations. And I actually have a whole separate business that is dedicated to supporting women in this situation, where women are out earning their husbands. And they're coming together and they're saying, hey, honey, I feel like I need XYZ from you, and I don't know that I'm getting it right now. And I don't know if it's because you don't know that, or that we need to have some hard, honest conversations, but I want us to make it. And this is what I need from you. Those are the couples that succeed together, that last, that have healthy marriages, and that build amazing lives because they're valuing the vision. They're valuing what they came together to build more than independent contributions, right? They're valuing showing up as a partnership. They're valuing having hard, honest conversations. They're valuing making sure that each other are seen and heard and feeling loved above everything else. And when all of those things are in place, the money follows. I have seen that. I have seen that in my life and in my marriage. I have seen it in marriages of people I've worked with, of colleagues, of other business owners that I know. The money part will work itself out when there's love there, when there's shared values, when you guys are on the same team, when you're a genuine partnership who doesn't tiptoe around hard conversations. Okay? I hope that helps. I hope that answers this question. For anything, the truth is always somewhere in the middle. Find the two most dramatic, intense, polarized positions, and the truth will be somewhere in the middle. It always is. Okay? Sorry. That's my dog protecting me. Very thankful for him. I love you. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will talk to you soon.